Salutations, my go-to-hellers. It is Matty here today with a review. So all the modern game releases fell off a cliff. I went all in on old game reviews over on Retro Rebound, but now we have a brand new game to talk about, and my only plans for reviews within the next week at least was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 on the Switch, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, my review plans were clear. And suddenly I started to get pinged on Twitter, Discord. Yo, you kind of got to check this one out for good and bad reasons, but mostly was negativity. There was some nefarious intentions with people inviting me into this experience because most people know how I feel about mobile games. Now, what's interesting about Diablo Immortal, the game we're talking about today, is that it started off as a mobile game meme. You know, the whole thing at BlizzCon with don't you guys have cell phones? Yeah, that whole history there has completely tainted this game from the get-go, but they gained some goodwill by previously announcing just recently that they were going to do a PC port of the game, and they listened to the fans, and they said this felt right. So I thought, okay, I'll bend my own rules. This is kind of a PC game. I played it on there, and I want to share some thoughts. Now, first things first is, while there's a big cloud of negativity surrounding this game, and rightfully so, I want to set expectations properly. If you are going into Diablo Immortal expecting Diablo 4, that is a you problem. That does not absolve the game of any of its stupid crap it does, but if you were expecting Diablo 4, that is on you, because Diablo 4, it is not. If you're going and expecting Diablo 3 streamlined, yeah, that's fair, and you get that. And honestly, the core game plays and feels pretty good, as we'll discuss. But beyond that, I have much more thoughts. So welcome everybody to our first modern game review in a couple of months. Usually we're always popping them out constantly, but there hasn't been anything. So thank you for sticking around. And with that, let's talk about Diablo Immortal, which is exactly what I feared. Now, I don't want to blow this one out of proportion because, again, it would feel very wrong for me. At the core of this game is something very fun. I picked the Necromancer. I'm summoning the undead. I'm using a scythe to swipe through enemies. I'm bringing up bones from underground and killing enemies in rows. I'm making corpses explode with the enemies I'm killing. The kits here are great. The gameplay feels good. So this isn't a situation like Crossfire X or something like Babylon's Fall where I really want to tear this game apart because it completely pissed me off. It's one of those situations where I played it and went, okay, this is good, but there's a lot of disappointing elements attached to it that come with a lot of these freemium games. However, it feels like the monetization design has not progressed in any of these free-to-play games. And I know the goal is to entice us to spend, but it attaches it to the core loop of Diablo, the endgame grind, and that's something I do take issue with, because there are things like, you know, cosmetic rewards that you can pay for. That's fine, but I'll talk about monetization in a little bit. I just want to make sure I do give the game its roses. It is fun, and I could see this being a game people have a good time with. So don't think I'm coming in here slandering it off the bat, but there is a lot to critique here, because for those who don't know my freemium background, stuff like Marvel Strike Force, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and of course, my favorite, Tales of Crestoria, put a lot of time into these gacha games. And yeah, they all kind of run and feel the same, all these freemium games. It doesn't matter how they play, like Diablo Immortal, which is better than most of these action RPGs that try to go onto mobile devices. Or, again, these gacha games, which are all about dice rolls and luck, designed to take your cash. Either way, both sides of the coin are designed to take your cash. So what really pushed me over the edge here was when I started looking up reviews for the game once I felt I had seen enough. And I was checking if people had really pulled the trigger on the review, and it turns out reviewers had this game early with microtransactions off.
As for how all these character progression and itemization systems tie into endgame gameplay and also into monetization remains to be seen. Remember, all microtransactions were disabled on the version I've been playing.
This ain't my first rodeo. I've seen a lot of games from particularly Activision, but also Ubisoft, that disable microtransactions, disable the store page during the review process. It happens a lot with, for example, like Assassin's Creed is one I can remember quite well, that they hide away, tuck it in the corner. You never see it. It's never intruding on your gameplay. You get the positive reviews. People download the game in this case. They buy the game in the case of Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty. They check it out and they're like, what are all these microtransactions? And for the people who didn't know about that, they don't care. They may buy into it. And I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, but these publishers are nefarious, and it's happening with Diablo Immortal. It's getting very positive critic reviews that have not experienced the microtransactions, which is a big part of this game. So let's talk about it. As I mentioned, it monetizes the loot grind towards the end game. Now, there are little intangibles I noticed when playing the game that you really got to experience the series to have your finger on the pulse on what I'm talking about here. I'm not going to act like I'm the biggest Diablo fan, but I've played a decent amount of it, where things in the early game, when you first start Immortal, is how a traditional Diablo experience is. Loot vomits, lots of enemies exploding, you're feeling very powerful, the curve is there, and as you get deeper into the game, you start to slow down a little bit with your skill ranks. But what I noticed was in this game, the regression began to occur after about the first 2 hours. And when that started to happen, I started to take more damage and deal less damage. And it felt very odd, because this is one of the few times in a RPG of any kind I can recall I'm getting worse as I go deeper, but I'm finding new loot consistently. And this isn't quite adding up. I also noticed that, especially in the early game, everyone's spitting out tons of loot, tons of it. You know, enchanted gear, basic gear, tons of it's being vomited on the floor. I was like, okay, I like what I'm seeing here. This is Diablo. That's why I said, like, the core game here is good, but you can just feel the rope slowly tightening around your neck. And it's done in such an intangible way, down to a science, that I can't sit here and point and go, that's the problem. It's a feeling thing, right? And I'm not trying to give you a bro trust me type of review, but that's what these games try to do. They are broken down to a science to get you to psychologically experience things that start to weaken your resolve, get you confused, and try to lead you toward the storefront. I'm telling you, it's what these games are based off of. And that's why it's a shame. It's kind of what I feared, was like, if you're going to tap into anything with Diablo, like, loot is kind of the hands-off thing, in my opinion, with the monetization. You can't touch the loot. You can't make this anywhere close to pay to win, because that is why people play Diablo. Thousands of hours across all 3 Diablo games. You can't do that. Like, cosmetically, transmogging, I think you could maybe get away with, because the core game is still there. So when you go into the storefront for Diablo Immortal, you pop it open, there are these things called rifts, and this is where you're going to get your legendary gear for the game. So the gear acquisition itself is not tied to money. Just make that very clear here. But to get the best endgame gear, it kind of sort of is. So you can upgrade your armor, your weapons through the blacksmith, but for things like legendary gear, you need to get glowing shards. And you get glowing shards by breaking down legendary gears, which you can get with very lucky drops, primarily inside the rifts that you have to pay to get into. Also, you could get them from the auction house, keep that in mind. But what happens here is you can get it with real money, or you can get it through the paid or free versions of the battle pass, which of course throws in a bit of a grind. And you have to lay down the cash for crests, which will increase the rate at which legendary gear drops. So one of the things that keeps people coming back to Diablo is the end game grind, running the game over and over and over, a new game plus, over and over and over. Imagine if they monetize that as you're trying to get the gear you're looking for. It's kind of this Elder Scrolls Blades energy. That's another mobile game I gave a lot of time to. I still think Fallout Shelter is like the king of these mobile games, but Elder Scrolls Blades was a game that at face value, and I'm seeing it a little bit with this game, at face value people go, what's the big deal? It plays just fine. But as you got deeper and as they added more to this game, and as they hid paywalls behind certain reviewers' backs, you start to see the truth come out more and more. And in the case of Elder Scrolls Blades, they had this thing called the Abyss, and as you got deeper and deeper, you needed to get better gear, but you couldn't unless you paid money. And so it would continue the grind, and it would increase your chance of getting better gear, but again, it would cost money out of your pocket. And it's one thing with these mobile games, I don't mind if they're trying to make money. They're giving you a game for free. In the case of Diablo Immortal, they're giving you basically Diablo 3 as a gameplay system for free, and it feels really good to play. So they're giving you something quality in the terms of the core product. So I don't mind them trying to make money off this at all. I'm not one of those people who's like, give it to me for free, bro. Why are you charging me at all? No, come on. I mean, they're a business. They got to make money. I'm totally about that. I totally understand that. It's about where you choose to put the money, the price tag on things, right? And in this case, it's on what I think is the defining loop for Diablo, where right now it's not a big deal. And for people who are going to grind the game enough, as per usual, they'll come into my comments, they'll come to you and be like, it's not that big of a deal. But for most of us, and for reasonable games, not broken down to a science, to get you to join a storefront, to get you to go, screw it, I'll throw $5. You get 2 million people who go, screw it, I'll throw $5. Guess how much money that Blizzard just made? That's how it works, right? So the screw it moments are where they get you. It should be a choice that you voluntarily make. And there's a reason why this game is not available in a place like Belgium currently. Why they're not allowing it there, because it's violating laws that they've set in place for loot boxes, and how the rifts do constitute as that. Probably the one thing I can say about the core product that isn't quality here for Diablo Immortal, on the PC port front, mind you, is the weird compatibility with the controllers. It seems like it only works with certain ones. I have a Series X controller here at the studio where I was playing this game, and I was kind of surprised to see there were certain moments that the HUD was popping up saying I had a controller hooked up when I did, but I was using keyboard and mouse controls, because when I tried to use the controller, the input was weirdly delayed. Like, I'd press the left analog stick like right in the beginning of the game, and I'd just be moving really at a delayed pace. And then I went back to keyboard and mouse. I'm like, let me make sure it's just not the game. Like, maybe I'm getting some lag here. No, it was fine. It was something with the controller. And I had a friend, my friend Jimmy Champagne, who tested it out, and he said, yeah, it's like certain controllers work, others don't. So I really don't know why this is a thing. I've never experienced it before. I'm not going to call the entire PC port trash, but this was one of the more abnormal experiences I've had with the PC version of a game, where it sometimes thought I was using the controller even though I had keyboard and mouse. Like, okay, I've seen that before. But then the delayed input, like when I press a button, it's as if I'm playing on the cloud suddenly. Yeah, really, really strange there, especially when I'm playing on wired with Fios, so even if it were the cloud, I think I'm pretty well equipped to handle that type of stuff, because I've done like things like xCloud here to no issue at all. So when I look at Diablo Immortal, here's how I would sell you on the game, if anything at all. Are you interested in Diablo 4? Are you interested in Diablo 3? Do you want a free test of what that experience may kind of feel like? Play the first hour of this game. Then go get the true experience where you don't got to worry about any of this crap. That's the thing, is even if we can kind of escape the monetization and get into a grind, you're kind of evading what I think is the real problem here, which is the core loop of the series is being monetized. And I don't like to dance around that type of stuff. I like to shoot straight through it, and it's pretty aggressive in its own way. I don't like that. So I fight against that stuff. Some people who choose to dance around it tell me, Matty, not a big deal, whatever. You're entitled to your own opinion. I respect it. Have at it. But I would just say, stick with the core Diablo games. You don't got to fight with any of this. You'll be able to understand why people love this series. And it might be better in a way to get you ready for Diablo 4. Because what you'll see here in Diablo Immortal, especially off the beginning, is this is a Diablo 3 asset flip in so many ways. So you may as well just see if you're interested in this kind of gameplay, because it literally does feel like Diablo 3, and then go pick that game up. It's way more replayable. You don't got to worry about any monetization. Ton of classes in there. It's a great game, and it's got some DLC for it you can check out. It's a really good time, so go give that a look. That would be my suggestion here. To me, yeah, this is fun. You can play with friends. Some of these areas are like social hubs, so you'll encounter other players while you're running around. That's kind of cool. But otherwise, I just feel like there hasn't been a true argument as to why I'm going to pick Diablo Immortal over something like replaying Diablo 3. I'm not trying to, again, as I said in the beginning of this review, look at it from the point of view of, okay, what are you doing that Diablo 4 isn't doing? Like, no, I'm not looking at it as the next big Diablo, but to me, you're competing for time with your old games. And this feels and looks like the old game. It just has a monetization loop in it. So I'm kind of just messing around with the same toy, but it's been shined up a little bit more. I don't know. That doesn't really sell me on the product. I'd rather just go back to Diablo 3 and do a new playthrough on that. So that's my read on it. I would just say, you know, is this something you stay away from for an extremely long period of time and never touch ever again? No, I mean, there is, again, a good game at its core. I just think you monitor this one and see how it develops, because Activision Blizzard has a really bad history. They aren't owned by Microsoft yet where they can save them. That hasn't happened yet. So they are still able to come in here with Diablo Immortal, and they can change the monetization. They can add mechanics that monetize it further. So to me, if I'm already looking at the core product and I'm displeased with how they're monetizing things, I don't expect them to pull it back. They need to make money off of this. They feel this is the best way to do so. They've put the science and the studies into it to make sure it is finely tuned to be just that. And that always rubs me the wrong way. But for me personally, it was a good reminder. Hey, I kind of like Diablo. I'm going to go play Diablo 3 now. Thanks, Blizzard. Appreciate you. So those are my thoughts on Diablo Immortal. Exactly what I feared. Not too surprised by that one, honestly, but I was surprised by, again, how enjoyable the core game was. Just wish we could have that, but it is what it is. I'm going to go play KOTOR 2 on my Switch as well now. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. What do you think of Diablo Immortal? If you have played it, let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.